Hello, dear friends. We are going to take a look at the diary of Gerhard Linke, who was a German lieutenant in the 185th Infantry Regiment of the 87th Infantry Division of the Wehrmacht. What concerns his biographical data, we know about him only the information that he indicated in his diary. One can see that he was young, well-educated, and had his own ideas concerning the essence of military service. Linke was an admirer of drill, of rigid military order. This is evident, but he also gave great importance to military brotherhood. He was certainly a brave man, as he received 2 Iron Crosses for his battles on the Eastern Front, and he also took the hardships of frontline life rather easily. During the battle for Moscow, the 87th Infantry Division was part of first the 9th, then the 4th Field, and later the 4th Tank Army, which acted at the forefront of attacks on the Red Army. In spite of the serious losses, which were suffered during the winter campaign of 1941 to 1942, details of which he wrote in his diary, the division remained in combat potential and fought on the Eastern Front throughout the war, surrendering only in the Courland Pocket after the fall of Berlin. It is necessary to clarify that the 87th Infantry Division, during the November offensive of the Wehrmacht to Moscow, was fighting at the junction of the Soviet 16th and 5th Armies, and, in the Zvenigorod direction, penetrated into the depths of the Soviet defense, probably the farthest, reaching the bank of the Moskva River east of Zvenigorod. Regarding the Battle of Moscow taken as a whole, in my opinion, it was the key battle on the Eastern Front. In terms of its influence on the course of the fighting of the entire Second World War, I also put it first. It is the most important battle of the Second World War. For what reason do I prioritize it over the other battles of World War II? That's straightforward. Most importantly, the scale of the battle and the impact of its results on the entire course of World War II. Around 2,800,000 soldiers took part in the battle on December 5, 1941. You will probably be surprised by the power balance. The Red Army was inferior to Germany in personnel of the armed forces, guns, and mortars, as well as the number of tanks. There was only one thing the Red Army had an advantage in. It was aviation, which is also quite surprising. The Soviet Union had in its disposal 1,100,000 soldiers, 7,650 guns and mortars, 770 tanks, and 1,000 combat-ready aircraft. Meanwhile, Germany had even more impressive power, 1,700,000 soldiers, 13,500 guns and mortars, 1,100 tanks, and 615 planes. Let me emphasize a very important detail. This battle involved battle-hardened German veterans who went through the countries of Europe with fire and sword. After the battle for Moscow, Germany had never such an experienced army again. It left the most combat-ready part of Germany's military power in the Russian snows near Moscow. My conviction is that if Germany had been able to capture Moscow, the Soviet Union would have lost the war. First of all, it would have been a very strong ideological attack against the Soviet government and the Soviet people as a whole. I doubt that they would have been able to recover after that. Secondly, Moscow is the largest transport hub of the Soviet Union. If captured, Germany would have struck a mortal blow to all Soviet Union logistics. Consequently, it would have left the Red Army without supplies, with all of the ensuing consequences. However, this battle was won by the Red Army, with the first serious defeat of Germany in World War II. The myth of the invincibility of the Wehrmacht was dispelled. The German armed forces received the first powerful blow to their fighting spirit. Success in the battle for Moscow gave hope of victory, not only to the Soviet people, but to all the Allied countries. So let's turn directly to the diary of the German lieutenant. November 15, 1941. Colonel Carson of the 461st Infantry Regiment took command of our section of the front this morning. We were moving to new quarters in the village of Oreshki. We will rest until the offensive resumes. In the village, the whole regiment has assembled. It is terribly crowded. November 16th. A beautiful sunny day. The snowy landscape with frosted trees and bushes is enchanting. Nevertheless, one can't think of absolute peace. We need to post strong guards so that in this forested area we will not be caught unawares. In the daytime, due to the great winter weather, the frost is still bearable, but it becomes unbearable at night, and everyone wraps up carefully in his blanket before laying down on a bed of straw. Not one of us has undressed since August. Twilight descends by 4 o'clock in this region, and it only gets light after 7:30 in the morning. This morning the enemy attacked the middle village, Redkino. Anti-tank and tank shells hit the outskirts of the village, taking one into a house, killing 2 soldiers and many wounded. We got new letter after a long break, after 7 weeks. We were delighted to get our first greetings from the motherland since we left the line of defense near Smolensk and took part in the great operation of the Vyazemsky encirclement. Like a horn of plenty, everyone received letters. Here I take advantage of the relatively quiet time to do my correspondence. Preparations for the attack and reconnaissance are being carried out with absolute stillness and thoroughness. It is somewhat disturbing for us to face the coming days. In the event the enemy burns the few villages, there will be nowhere for our troops to be housed and warmed. It has been enough for a few frosty days that illnesses and cases of frostbite have begun. Our fighting force was noticeably dwindling. After the endless demands of the regimental command, several pairs of boots were finally received, one might say at the last minute. After the first shipment of winter uniforms, which arrived comparatively late, was distributed last week, a new distribution is now forthcoming. November 17th. Another fantastic, beautiful morning. The thermometer shows -9 degrees. At Redkino, it is still not quite calm. Fierce roar of the guns kept coming from the side of the village of Gorbovo. November 18th. Following a quiet night, there are final dispositions for the attack. The whole day passes in a continuous rush. With expectations, we go to sleep for a few hours. What awaits us tomorrow? How will the unaccustomed frost affect us? The day has come. We have to take part in the encirclement of Moscow. In doing so, we hope to get a strong position. In that case, it is possible that we will then be withdrawn or even released altogether. There are high expectations for the beginning of the battle. 3rd Battalion is quickly breaking the enemy resistance at the edge of the forest. We march to Petrovo on Kobly Road. According to the captives, there should be field fortifications. At the starting point, we hear the noise of fighting on our left. After a while, we see German soldiers approaching the village. Our battalion starts immediately adjacent to the movement and makes its way into Petrovo. Things become clear there. Our neighbor is to the left, lost the right direction on a snow-covered forest road, and entered the village, thinking that he had reached the first objective of the offensive. The maps are so imprecise that it is almost impractical to use them. We have been convinced of this more than once ourselves. Once the village was cleared, the insolent continued to fire a machine gun between the houses. We captured an easy prey. We took many prisoners, destroyed 1 tank, and took many machine guns and other weapons. There were 2 tank guns of a new type that we didn't know about yet, captured along with ammunition. They should be kept for examination and evaluation. We continue our way through the villages of Okrino, Zityanino, Timonino. There are some unfortunate congestion and traffic jams along the way due to the fact that the ill-fated neighboring regiment never took its allotted lane. My own lane, to untangle these knots, is left behind. Some drivers and transport commanders should have been taught the baton. Discipline is not at all high in these units. I catch up with my regiment through Yuryevo, Ogarkovo, Gornevo, after a tiresome ride on a motorcycle. Throughout the way, all the time again, I have to overcome all sorts of difficulties. Weak crossings are broken up by vehicles. Heavy wagons slide down smooth slopes. It is difficult, very slow to overcome the difficult places, despite the extra harnesses. Poor horses are exhausted. There is both a lack of forage and the cold. All the animals are in the open air in winter. 2 tanks stand in the way. Away from us, the night sky is fiery red. November 20th. In view of the poor road, our convoys are far behind us. The first thing we have to do is pull up parts of the infantry column. However, the order came for us to keep moving. This is how we waste precious hours of the day. We stay with our command post in the village of Gornevo. The regiment with its battalion succeeds in taking the villages of Iglovo and Zavyazavo by surprise attack. The starting position is hidden from the Russians. Owing to the sudden opening of fire, the enemy suffered huge losses. Heavy regimental guns concealed near the edge of the forest had a devastating effect on the ranks of the Red Army, which intended to take up positions. There were over 30 dead and 6 disabled machine guns lying in a small area. Major casualties in trenches and shelters. Over 250 men were taken prisoner. We had 2 wounded among our casualties. We can hardly believe it. I was not feeling well all day. I guess a cold was creeping up on me. I experienced the successes beyond the point. I lingered at the command post. Quinine was able to help me get back on my feet. Yesterday, the temperature reached -10 degrees, and today it is -7. Gray clouds covered the sun. It is weird because Russian artillery has not fired so far from the area of Oreshki village or from the area of Vishenki village. It is likely that the enemy has few guns and concentrates them in the main strike area. The activity of the salvo gun, which is called Stalin's organ in the soldiers' language, is increasing at the same time. While we have not experienced its action ourselves, but we frequently hear the incessant roar of blows from afar. It is said that the effect of the bursting rockets is stronger than the real action and incomparable to our chemical mortars. Our neighbors are fighting not very well on the left. There are still places that are not cleared of the enemy. November 21st. We are going to the village of Torkovo in the morning. Along the way, I have a chance to look at the field where the battle took place yesterday and take pictures of individual sections. We have to get to the village of Sosunika in the afternoon. For the first time in Torkovo, the artillery opened interfering fire. Unfortunately, we lost several men, horses, and other war material. While speaking to Major General Lucht, rocket shells were fired in our direction. Many of them exploded in the middle of the village. All those inside the room lay down on the floor. Windows trembled from the airwave of grenades bursting close by. Here the flame flew out. Mud and smoke rise as a column. Among the wounded are Senior Lieutenant Thulmer, Lieutenant Canis, and Lieutenant Mueller. Outside, one can hear the groans and cries of the seriously wounded. The casualties of the headquarters company are heavy. Movement through the forest was proceeding slowly. First, it was necessary to clear the road. Senior Feldwebel Berthold, who was my former Chief Feldwebel during the westward campaign, and a Spanish soldier are dying like heroes from grenade shrapnel. There is a command, tanks forward. There is already a heavy T-34 tank on the road, which was mentioned in one of the last Soviet leaflets. Our assault gun that is ahead won't be able to do much damage to it. All it can do is bring down the turret of this giant. Then the deminers blow up the tank. While a similar tank appeared at the side, in the bushes, the brave deminers destroyed it with a thermite mine. As we got to the edge of the forest, we realized we had lost our way. At 3rd Battalion's command post, there were direct hits from heavy Russian artillery. Among many men of the battalion headquarters, Wildhagen was killed. I found him in the last moments of his life. We liberate the village of Sosunika and occupy it. The middle regiment occupies the settlements on the right, at the same height. We return to Torkovo with headquarters. Being tired, we settle in the house, where the frame is blown out today. The holes were plugged with planks and hay. At night, the barn where 85 horses of the 8th Transport Column were standing caught fire. Reason for the fire remained unknown. Apparently there was sabotage. In spite of all efforts of the guards, most of the horses were burnt, and the harness was also burnt. In one blow, the regiment's transport column disappeared. I don't have any idea how much heavier the loss is. It is impossible to get the horses without damaging other units. The precious harness cannot be obtained at all. We require an anti-aircraft squad to be attached to fight the tanks, as the anti-tank guns are ineffective against the heavy tanks, while the attached medium anti-tank guns can become actionable only conventionally. The 47mm gun destroyed a medium tank. November 22nd. The anti-aircraft squad. I accompany it to the front line, to Sosunika. I equip the regiment's new command post. The enemy is attacking the 173rd Infantry Regiment. There is the noise of battle at times. The 2nd and 3rd Battalions move on Sormino. As the 2nd Battalion moves from Zavyazovo to Sosunika, they reach there just as the information comes in about the enemy's occupation of the initial position near the village. With a quick strike by a rifle company and assault guns, the enemy is defeated. There are 60 killed Russians remain on the battlefield. 100 are taken prisoner. The 2nd Battalion joins the other battalions poised to attack Sormino around noon. The area where we take the initial position, it comes to firefights with the enemy units thrown back to the north. Several tanks bombard German positions. An 87mm anti-aircraft gun fires on a T-34. The tank burns up. It is an impressive picture of the offensive. The whole regiment is moving in an open field from the forest to the village. Assault artillery, anti-tank guns, and anti-aircraft guns aid with their fire. Missiles of the assault artillery that precisely fell put several anti-aircraft guns on the outskirts of the village out of action. The T-34 suddenly rushes out from behind the houses and turns around, spewing fire at the chains of gunners. The anti-tank guns of all calibers and anti-aircraft guns, standing a little away, take it under fire. This insolent swirls between the soldiers and tries to crush them with his tracks. It can only be escaped by a nimble leap to the side. Here, 1 or 2 soldiers die in a horrible way. The monster's turret appears to be jammed. In any case, he only fires his machine gun. The projectile of the light anti-tank gun hits the exhaust pipe. Fire bursts out. The engine is smoking. Nevertheless, the tank rushes forward at high speed. After all, one chain comes off the running gear. The tank spins on the spot. The next shell smashes the second track, and the T-34 stops. There's a 100-voiced hurrah! While the first companies are already in the village and pursue the fleeting enemy with fire. Sormino is under our control. The highway from Istra to Zvenigorod is blocked. The regiment has won one more success. Lieutenant Strabel, he remained in Sosunica, went through terrible hours. Forceful units of Russian infantry flooded the road connecting the 2 battalions and threatened the village. The telephone wiring was cut in places. People who tried to fix it were killed. I and Lieutenant Gitter, he is from 1st Division, 187th Artillery Regiment, were going back shortly afterwards. We find a burning motorcycle sidecar in the same hollow. There were 2 soldiers in the snow, red with blood. Standalone interfering fire and hits from the Stalin organ fell inaccurately, away from the village, in the field. There was 1/3 of the T-34 destroyed entirely by 60mm anti-tank guns on the eastern outskirts of the village of Sormino. In the evening, we always warm up and take a rest on the poverty-stricken bed. These are hours of unforgettable, refreshing slumber. One of the staff officers must always be awake, sitting by the dim lamp. November 23rd. It's Sunday. We remain in place, but there is no sense of Sunday peace in our headquarters. The phone rings too often. Liaisons come and are sent back. Visits to the battalion follow one after another. Discussions are held. Minor interfering fire is observed in the field. Our deminers are working on the road. The group of Russian scouts is taken prisoner. November 24th. The offensive continues. However, soon the company had to stop in front of the lined-up fortified positions of the enemy in the forest. It takes huge losses. Nothing can be done. Lieutenant Dr. Richter died at the head of the 11th Company on the Zvenigorod-Instra road. In desperation, I look for the 6th Company, which was sent to help, and meet the 11th Company, which was left without a commander and scattered. I had great difficulty in putting it in order and putting it back into action. The Stalin's organ gave uninterrupted one round after another over us. One of the volleys forced us to lie down. A large forage straw pad kept us safe from the shrapnel. As time goes on, we gradually get used to it. Once we hear the shots rang out from afar, there is an immediate sound. Attention, organ! All look for cover. They all take their places as soon as the shell bursts in another area. The last round hits the target. There are many houses catching fire. There are only a few of the nearby wagons that can be rescued. It was possible for me to rescue a horse from the burning barn. I could not untie the second horse and left it to its fate as the burning thatched roof fell at that moment. There were major casualties resulting from enemy action and disease, so that these losses could not be immediately recouped. With each passing day, the combat strength of the troops is weakening. While 14 days ago there were 70 men in a company, today there are only 40. Tomorrow there will only be 35. There are some people who are starting to count the days when it will be their turn. This does not show the fighting spirit in any way. Certain of the best commanders, trying to lead the men forward with their own example, are the first to die in their company. It shows how many casualties there are among officers and non-commissioned officers. As of today, about 40 men, which is 50% of all casualties of the day. Recent commanders who arrived as new replacements are poorly versed in the job and lack understanding of the responsibility of the assignment received. Some of the men are stupid and indifferent. Some have no conscience and put their superiors in the lurch. These people take every opportunity to step back. One of their favorite pretexts is to take the wounded away. There's still a fight going on in the forest. I go back to the 6th Company to give my orders. In the meantime, the 1st Battalion commanded by Senior Lieutenant Zichy has captured the village of Svatovo, located in the rear behind the Russian forest positions. Lieutenant Friedrich takes diversionary attacks from the rear with a minor force. The 6th Company, which I finally reached, is pressing the enemy from the west. The enemy retreats at dusk. Communication with Svatovo is re-established by Lieutenant Friedrich, who brings forward 2 tractors with anti-tank guns at the same time. There are powerful guards set up in forest positions that have been cleared of the enemy. We climb into a barn for the night, the sturdy walls of which will serve as good protection against splinters. On the following day, the persistent fighting continues. To our regret, our losses are very high, especially among the commanders. The men who have been in continuous fight since early August are tired and overworked. There is an excessive moral burden. Shouting "orderly" runs through the battle like wandering fire, and opposite the cry of "MG forward" is left unheard. All these unpleasant occurrences, which were unknown in our regiment before, are now manifesting themselves so openly and causing us much trouble. There is no answer to the question as to why the reserves were not delivered in time to replace the unit that is out of action for the time being. It was made clear by my regimental commander to the high command already in Vyshenki that a little more and we would go over the line. General Geyer's response to the infantry commander was, "You must have faith and dare, because the gods make no promises to us." These few lines, however, speak a different language. Ludwig Uhlen's words about brave Schwabs. The brave Schwab fears nothing. He walked his way step by step, though his shield was streaked with enemy arrows, and looked around him mockingly. You can't create a strong, offensive-ready army from a tired, lousy, and sparse company. The only way to do this is to get some rest, take care of the armament, clothing, and strict mushra. It is well known that war affects the soldier, so he must be purified and refreshed from time to time. This, however, seems to be unheard of among the chain of command. For this reason, we look to the future with concern. Lieutenant Dr. Richter was killed today. The wounded were Lieutenant Fielg, Lieutenant Seidel, and Senior Lieutenant Duderer. The brave non-commissioned officer Medler, former commander of the grenade launcher section of my motorcycle platoon, was killed near Sermino on October 24th. Those trustworthy old men disappear. November 25th through 29th. Our position is on a line captured from the enemy. Neighboring units are at equal height with us. The right flank, on the other hand, is lagging behind. We have not been able to break the enemy resistance. SS units and tanks have occupied Istra and are moving forward to the east. By that, they temporarily deprive us of the glory of being close to Moscow. We bury our regiment's dead at Sermino. The weather is getting better. This enables the aviation to intensify its activity. An anti-aircraft combat group assigned to Lieutenant Hecke shoots down one single-seat fighter. Neighboring anti-aircraft units shoot down several enemy planes. We have overall stillness. We are doing reconnaissance. I have set up communications with the 7th and 187th Infantry Regiments. We form 2 battalions out of the regiment, each with 2 rifle companies and 1 machine gun company. It is a tough decision, but it is well thought out in advance. There is no meaning to continue fighting with such an insignificant force. Each day, new sick men are sent to the infirmary. We don't see any more of these soldiers afterwards, regardless of the fact that the illnesses are mild. Lieutenant Zichy also had to go to the rear. I don't know what this will lead to in the end. Our hope is the infiltration of Guderian tank units from the southwest against Moscow. As the circle closes, we'll also proceed to the creation of a strong line of defense for the winter. But we wish the snow would not hold us back. If that happens, it will be difficult for the motorized transport to move, and it will make the infantry less mobile. On the whole, as Germans, we are not used to waging war in winter, and our armament is not quite adequate to the latter. Therefore, everyone who hears about the successes of the troops should have all the more respect for the deeds of the men dressed in gray cloth. There is obvious tension and difficulty accompanying all our conquests. November 30th. It's Sunday, a cloudy day, light frost. Snowflakes fall slowly. The attack is to be continued in the morning. Commanders of attached units spend the whole day in discussions. Dexterous drivers wove a festive wreath. We spend half an hour by candlelight in the pre-Christmas mood. The rough wooden walls are invisible in the dancing candlelight, and the hay-strewn windows are invisible too. A cup of tea is steaming in front of us, a round cookie sent by my mother just in time. There is a lot of praise for the cookies among us. It has been a long time since any of us had anything like that. December 1st. As day progresses, there is continued progress. The advanced battalion holds a position on the edge of the forest from Zvatovo to Kazmino. There are fortifications camouflaged in the bushes, which were taken with the fight. Visibility is extremely bad because of the dense bushes. I look at the broken trenches. There is a hunched figure in almost every one. I stick a pole into the trenches and throw heavy lumps of frozen earth. No one moves. Dead. The sappers of our regiment are engaged in assembling and destroying Russian weapons. While doing so, they have taken many prisoners. Meanwhile, the advanced 3rd Battalion has made its way to the edge. There is a lot of machine gun fire through the branches. We suspect the presence of mines in some places. The battalion took its planned starting position. Coming after it, the 2nd Battalion was ordered to go around the forest in the neighboring village of Kazmino and operate from the flank. The clearing indicated on the map turns out not to be in reality again. There are no telephonists present. We walk in ranks through the snow-covered forest. As a liaison officer, I accompany the battalion. There is a sudden firefight with a guard outpost in the forest, which, unfortunately, we could not catch by surprise. It spotted us when we were 30 paces away. The shells of our artillery are almost flying over us. The settlement must now not be far away. Soon, we see it lying around the bend in the river. Machine gun and rifle fire from Schwitzber's battalion, which is also attacking the enemy. Assault guns were also striking in the meantime. Schlegel's battalion quickly reorganized its combat order and burst into the village. Machine guns of the enemy, set in the bushes at the edge of the village, are still firing at it. My telephonists are in place, but there's no communication. It's becoming disgusting. While walking across the open terrain, the 3rd Battalion approaches. It has taken up positions. The Bolsheviks hold the village under light artillery fire. Once organized, the 3rd Battalion commanded by Senior Lieutenant Maggie, the senior commander of that battalion is seriously wounded by a mine, moves toward Lipki. It only makes it a few hundred meters, however, and stops as darkness falls. A heavy anti-aircraft gun tractor hit a mine and went out of action. An anti-aircraft platoon non-commissioned officer was killed by his gun. Lieutenant Gottschling was shot in the chest by a machine gun. He died heroically. Lieutenant Felborg was already wounded at noon. There were several shells in the assault artillery gun. Then the panoramic sight was shattered. They were both unfit for use now. Our losses were not insignificant either. Throughout the day, it was cold. It was especially noticeable when you went inside to get warm. It has settled down outside. We're going to bed. I take a frozen slice of bread out of my pocket and consume it with enviable gusto. The 3rd Battalion throws the enemy back at night. The reconnaissance detachments penetrate the forest and find the village of Lipki, our target, unoccupied. They enter it during the night and set up posts. We move forward after a restless night. December 2nd. The regiment's main forces arrive at Lipki, which was taken at night. The objective of the day for taking Palissy has been achieved. The battalion of Schlegel has to make its way through the forest by fighting the Bolshevik rearguards and scouring the terrain on both sides of the village. The 4-barreled machine gun that was standing on the truck will burn the bush. However, the machine gun line lays relatively high, endangering only the hideout's slanting bullets buzzing the branches. Meanwhile, the 10th Company is clearing the enemy's position without losses to itself. I'm back at the 2nd Battalion. The edge of the forest is under mortar fire. We don't see the village at first, but it should be at the foot of the gentle hill in front of us. It's open terrain. There's only the forest in the distance, on the horizon. At our left, far ahead of us, there is a forest. There must be a birch grove not far from the edge of the village. It takes quite a few hours before everything is ready. We step forward impatiently from one foot to the other. Our feet are freezing. I notice the lightheartedness of our people. As they gather in groups, they gather at the sparse edge of the grove, in a visible spot. I chastise aggressively several officers. I'm very surprised at the order of the cars. They follow the compound on their heels, in large groups, disregarding the camouflage. My remarks seem to go up in vain. The battalion moves toward a populated area. The company crawls from the edge of the forest to the birch grove. The area is under artillery fire. There are no Russians. The valley of the Moskva River is in front of us. The outlines of the next village, Askanino, loom behind the stacks, and we can see movement there. Heavy guns fit quickly to the positions. Heavy machine guns, anti-tank guns, light regimental guns open fire. The village of Palissy lies on high ground. On the other side of the Moskva River are forested hills. For the Russians, this position will not be very pleasant. One impatient machine gunner also wants to open fire. Nonsense or lack of orientation yet, I don't know. The first machine gun fire hits his own. Lieutenant Schreiderer is seriously wounded and will soon bleed out. After the regiment commander, who arrived at that time, put out a line of the main resistance, I went back to the command post in Linke. We took our position in the school. A pleasant surprise in the evening. The general calls Mr. Colonel to him and informs him that the Fuhrer is awarding him the Knight's Order of the Iron Cross. This honored award is a worthy recognition of all that this man has done, of his successes. The weather is clear and cold. There is intense Russian aviation activity all day long. Our doctor finds a whole colony of bedbugs in the wall at night. He wastes almost the entire battery of his pocket flashlight, watching the last ones. For today, that's all, the end of the first part. We'll publish the second and final part of the diary in the nearest time. If you liked this video, please support it with a like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye everyone, see you all again.